I just got done watching episode 6 of Tyler Perry's Divorced Sisters, and things are really heating up, okay? The show was already good, but this episode right here did a whole Uno reverse, and I don't even know what to believe anymore, okay? But before I get into the full recap, let me introduce myself. My name is Brandy, and I realize that you could be on any channel in the world, but you're right here with me, and I really do appreciate that. So before we get started, go ahead and like this video, and also subscribe to my channel if you do like watching TV show reviews and also movie reviews. So overall, guys, this series is really heating up. It's definitely not perfect, but at this point, I was still rated around, it's around a 7.5 over 10 for me because the storytelling is good, okay? Like, the only flaws that I really see is not enough character development, and just the dialogue can be a bit repetitive and the scenes are a bit too long. But in my opinion, the great storytelling makes up for those flaws, okay? But let's dig into episode 6, all right? So we saw on the end of episode 5 that Jeff got a call from Myron, his assistant / driver, and Myron says,
"Are you in the car, babe? Can you talk?"
So we were left on a cliffhanger on episode 5, not knowing what to think. Like, oh my God, Jeff is having an affair with Myron, right? But this episode picks up where Jeff explaining himself to Rasheda, okay? Well, first, he tells Myron, like, hey man, what you talking about, right? So Myron says, Pastor Jeff. He's acting as if he didn't know he called Pastor Jeff. And he says he meant to call his wife Denise. So Pastor Jeff tells him never to do that again. Like, my wife is right here. She's listening in. She's looking at me like I'm crazy, right? So Rasheda, she storms into the house, and Pastor Jeff, he gets in his car and he's like about to go about his day, right? You could tell he's a little bit upset though, but he's still going about his day. He didn't go in the house to immediately pursue her to make sure she's okay, right? So he got in the car and he started praying to God, right? Then in the middle of his prayer, he got a call from Tiffany. Tiffany was wondering where was Rasheda at. Remember in episode 5, everybody was looking for Rasheda because Rasheda slept all night in the car and she was not answering any calls. So Tiffany calls Pastor Jeff. Pastor Jeff tells her where Rasheda is, and Tiffany is just inquiring, what's wrong? What happened? So Pastor Jeff divulges to her that Rasheda slept in her car all night because he didn't open the car door for her the night before. And Tiffany, with her big mouth self, right? She tells Pastor Jeff that is such a big deal for Rasheda, him not opening the door. Because when they were in college, Rasheda had a boyfriend that was a fraternity brother, right? And she was in his dorm room and they were making out. Someone knocked on the door and it happened to be the rest of the frat brothers, right? And they actually, unfortunately, SA'd her, right? And she was begging them, open the door, begging her boyfriend specifically, right? And he would not open the door, and she was stuck in that situation all night long. I can't imagine what a traumatic experience that you would just hold with you forever, right? And I totally understand why she never told anybody that situation, not even Jeff. Well, obviously she told Tiffany and she also told Geneva, but those are the only two people that knew about that situation. But in my opinion, it wasn't Tiffany's place to divulge that information to Pastor Jeff, although she was trying to be helpful. But she could have just kept it really high level and just zoomed out a bit and say, hey, Pastor Jeff, you not opening the door is very much so a big deal, okay? Something traumatic happened to Rasheda, something horrific. I'm not going to get into that. I'll let her tell you if she decides to, but opening the door is symbolic of other things, okay? You need to go in that house and you need to talk to her, okay? She could have just kept it like that. Like, I'm so mad that she told Rasheda's personal business, okay? And I'm sure Rasheda will handle her accordingly in the next episode. And Pastor Jeff, he is actually distraught. And I'm happy that we get to see a vulnerable side of him on this episode, right? So he goes into the house to talk to Rasheda, right? Actually to apologize first. He didn't immediately bring up the Myron phone call again, but he told her, like, listen, babe, I'm so sorry I didn't open that door for you. It'll never happen again. You know, I'm here for you. And he apologized, right? She mentioned the Myron situation, like, well, what about Myron? Are you guys having an affair? He goes on to tell her that he's been very distant and he's been throwing himself into work and kind of avoiding her because he feels a lot of pressure. He really wants a new church building and that he also has a hard time being in her shadow. He said the higher they climb, the more insecure that he becomes, because everybody loves Rasheda. She's so magnetic. She's so likable, and he has to work really hard to get people to like him, okay? Rasheda is steady trying to get back to that Myron conversation, right? So she asked him blatantly, like, are you attracted to men? Would you tell me if you are? And he says, no, I'm not attracted to men. But he goes a little bit far and says, I am attracted to a few women at the church, right? And he names their names. He's like, I'm attracted to Carla, Trina, and Bonita. I'm like, whoa, Pastor Jeff, right? You shouldn't have said all of that, right? But anyway, Rasheda just asked for some space so she could get dressed and, get ready for work, all right? Not too long after she showers and gets ready, Pastor Jeff comes back in the room to make sure she's okay. Like, he's really trying his best, y'all. And that's why I said I'm so confused, because he really pulled the Uno reverse. Last few episodes, I'm looking at him like the villain. Now I'm looking at him like, is he lying or is he telling the truth? Like, I'm really like debating in my head what to believe, right? So he comes in, he's being more vulnerable with her. This dialogue was just going on a little bit too long, though, and they were going in circles sometimes. Sometimes the writing is just very redundant, okay? But nonetheless, she asked him, like, what is making you be this vulnerable with me? Like, who were you talking to, right? So she comes to the conclusion that he was talking to Tiffany. That's the only person he could have been talking to. And he admits that Tiffany told her what happened to her when she was younger in her college days. And she says, I don't want you to look at me as a victim. I don't want you to feel sorry for me. That's why I never told you, But anyway, they piece things up. They seem like everything's all and well for now, okay? And they even go to the church together. They ride together. They seem all lovey-dovey. Bridget even questions it, like, oh, you guys look so happy. Like, ooh, Rasheda, you must have got some last night. Like, right? So she's saying all of this. But my thoughts on the whole Rasheda, Pastor Jeff thing is, I probably would have did the same thing. I'm not even going to lie to y'all, Like, that's exactly what she wanted him to be. She wanted him to be vulnerable and open up to her, right? And that's what he said. I'm going to open up these closed doors in my heart, right? That's what she wanted. So for the time being, all is well, right? He said Myron is not a thing, right? He said, he only has eyes for her. He never cheated on her, right? So for now, all is good, right? So I would trust him, but I need her to have just a little bit of Geneva in her, right? And what I mean by that is just do a little bit of her own investigating, right? Not go crazy, not following people, but she just needs to look into things and just double check that Myron isn't a thing. And she needs to double check too on those allegations that he was having affairs with ladies at the church, okay? So trust, but verify Rasheda. But nonetheless, on this episode too, Rasheda looked gorgeous, okay? And that outfit she had on where it matched her hair, like Rasheda is so stunning. And every scene she is in, she just dominates the screen to me. Like, whoa, what a woman. Now let's move on to Geneva. Geneva unfollowed the pretty lady up to her yoga studio, okay? So Geneva still has it in her head that William might be having an affair with one of the moms from Anika's school, right? So she follows the lady at first, but she's on the phone with Rasheda. And Rasheda encourages her, in fact, begs her, like, please turn around. Like, go home, take a shower, get dressed, come see me. We have business to handle, okay? So temporarily, Geneva aborts that mission, right? She doesn't continue to follow the pretty lady, right? She goes home, she gets dressed. Finally, she's out of that green dress. But I thought I saw a scene last episode where she was out of that green dress. But anyway, maybe I'm tripping. She's finally out of the green dress. She's in a red outfit now, but she still decides to go to the yoga studio to see the lady, okay? So she pulls up, smoking a Newport or whatever cigarette she's smoking, right? She gets out, she goes in to see the lady, like, listen, our daughters are friends and they seem to be quite smitten with each other. Why don't we exchange numbers and do a play date, right? And the lady just obliges and gives her the number. Like, I'm like, I would be like, hey, how do you know where I work at? Why are you just popping up on me like that? But the lady just obliged, right? So Geneva is really slick. So she left her phone there intentionally, right? With the record memo on. So it was recorded. So she left her phone. She came right back in a few minutes later to see like what the pretty lady had said or who she had called, right? Then she goes back to her car to listen to the recording. And the lady had called somebody like, whoa, I just got a very strange visit. We need to talk about this when we see each other, okay? I'll miss you. See you at the spot later. So Geneva in her crazy head just assumes that the lady was talking to William. Or maybe that's what she wants to believe, right? And Rasheda continuously in this episode is checking her like, listen, you are making it up in your head that William is cheating on you because you're trying to justify your feelings for Javon. And Rasheda is a real one for that. So much so, when they were having a conversation when Geneva finally did make it up to the church to see Rasheda, I was questioning how long would they be friends? Because it doesn't even seem like Rasheda will vibe with a Geneva. Like she said to Geneva, like, you're so interested in Javon right now because he's exciting you. You always did like drama, right? And that line just stuck with me. Like, how are they friends? Rasheda seems pretty drama-free, pretty level-headed, and Geneva's a mean girl that likes drama and attention, right? Very odd pair, very odd sisterhood. But Geneva, she tells Rasheda the situation that happened earlier that day, where Javon solicited Tiffany in a secret way to show him the rental property right next door to Geneva, right? So he wants to move right next door to Geneva, y'all. He is a little bit cuckoo, right? I was starting to like him a little bit on the last episode. Well, not really like him, but starting to feel indifferent to him. Now in this episode, I'm like, you are really taunting this lady. Why are you trying to move right by her, right? But also with Javon, I'm not sure if he's really going to pursue things with Tiffany. It seems like they plan on going on a date later on that night. But is he really serious about pursuing Tiffany? Like, what kind of guy would do that? Try to pursue your best friend just to make you jealous and get your attention. And again, just love Rasheda so much because she kept bringing up that point. Like, he is not a good guy. Why would he be trying to pursue Tiffany, right? But anyway, Geneva goes on to tell Rasheda, like, if Tiffany and Javon, if they end up hunching, it's a wrap. It's over. And Rasheda was like, what you mean by that? And then Geneva says,
because I have never in my life had a man that size.
Leave it to Mr. Tyler Perry to just over dramatize some things, right? Because I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? But Geneva, to me, like, she is just seeming like a lot younger than what she is, right? Like, you're so bored with William. You're a mom, you're a lawyer, you're a wife. Like, get a hobby or something. Spend more time with your kid. She has a nanny, and she doesn't even spend a lot of time with her 5-year-old daughter, right? I know marriage not perfect, but Geneva is going to get herself in some serious trouble messing with this Javon. All right, now let's move on to Bridget. Now, her storyline got super dramatic on episode 6, okay? She goes up to the church because that's where she works at, so she's just showing up to work. She sees Calvin, whom her boyfriend had gotten into a fight with just earlier that morning, and Vaughn actually beat him up, right? Vaughn beat up Calvin. So Calvin is looking for him, right? Apparently, because the language is a little bit vague in my opinion, right? So Calvin is looking for him, like, where is he? Tell me where he is. The police went by your house. He's not there. So Bridget says, like, yo, he might be at my mom's house. I don't know. But nonetheless, right, Pastor Jeff and Rasheda, they're walking up. So Calvin says he needs to talk to Pastor Jeff urgently, right? So Pastor Jeff and Calvin go into his office to talk, right? And I'm very curious what that conversation was about, okay? I think something more is going to come out of that situation. And I don't know if Calvin was just trying to call the cops, because he doesn't seem like that type of guy that would just call the cops over a petty fight, right? But nonetheless, like, business as usual, okay? These people work at the church. So Bridget is in her office and she gets a text from Javon along the lines of, like, nobody loves me. I'm going to kill myself. So she's trying to call him. He's not answering the phone. Rasheda walks in and they decide to go into Pastor Jeff's office to try to diffuse the situation. Bridget is steady calling Vaughn, but he's not answering the phone still, right? But he finally picks up. She has him on speaker. They're in the office all together. Pastor Jeff, everybody, right? So Pastor Jeff talks to him like, listen, I went through a lot in my younger days. You don't have to do this. And Vaughn just keeps saying, nobody loves me. Nobody cares about me. You have a wife. You had a cars. Nobody loves me. Bridget kicked me out the house. I don't have anything to live for, right? So that scene hangs up with him, like, putting the phone down, and all we hear is gunfire, all right? So it could be assumed that maybe he committed suicide, but we're not quite sure at this point. Very sad situation, but just very dramatic turn from the Vaughn that we saw on the last episode, right? He didn't seem like he was in that much distress to commit that act. But we don't know if he did that or not, right? We have to see. Just like on the last cliffhanger, we thought for sure that Myron and Jeff were together. Now we're questioning it, right? So we don't know for sure if, Vaughn is alive or dead. But anyway, moving on to Naomi, we didn't see anything about her storyline whatsoever. All we hear is that she's still, like, spiraling out. Everything is pretty steady with her, but we don't see her in this episode at all. But this show is really heating up. This is a really good show. Again, not perfect. It has its flaws, but the storytelling is on point. Like, I can't wait till next Thursday to watch episode 7, okay? But nonetheless, if you made it this far in the video, be sure to like this video. And also comment down below. Let me know who your favorite divorced sister is, okay? I'm still curious about that title too, right? Divorced sisters. All of them aren't divorced. So is Geneva going to get a divorce? Is Rasheda going to get a divorce? Like, what is going to happen? Nonetheless, I am invested. But turn your notifications on for the next Divorced Sisters recap, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.